Thank you.
Okay, we are live.
Okay. Well, hello and welcome officially to our 12th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3-minute thesis competition. My name is Alyssa Gardner, director of the Grad Academy, and I am your host for today. And welcome officially to our 12th annual Rebel Grad Slam 3. Oh, okay. The 3-minute thesis, or 3MT, competition model was developed at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008. By 2011, the 3MT competition phenomena had spread around the globe, and now more than 900 universities from more than 85 countries hold these competitions. In 2014, UNLV held our first 3MT, the Rebel Grad Slam, and this is our 12th annual Research Rumble. The 3MT is a fantastic opportunity for students to learn how to convey who they are and what they study to an audience of folks who are mostly outside of their field. It's an opportunity to build public speaking and communication skills. It's worth noting that our slammers come from all over campus and from a wide range of disciplines. This week, we have over 100 UNLV graduate and professional students assigned to compete in the preliminary rounds. Each will present their research in 3 minutes or less, using one slide and no props. We will introduce each student and then start the timer. If a student goes over 3 minutes, they will be eliminated from the competition. So now let's turn our attention to the scoring for this Research Rumble. Our judges will be assessing the competitors based on metrics which total 24 possible points in 4 major areas: comprehension, content, engagement, and communication. Each judge will independently score each competitor. Judges will not penalize competitors for unanticipated disruptions that are beyond the slammer's control. At the end of all the presentations, we will tally the judges' combined scores for each Grad Slammer and announce the winners right here, live. The top 3 in this session will then advance to the semifinals on Thursday. So without further ado, let me introduce our judges for today's session, and we'll get on with our 3MT Research Rumble. So we are fortunate to have a set of distinguished judges with us today for the session. Judges, please feel welcome to turn your camera on and wave hello as I introduce you today. So we have Dr. Cheng-Wei Zhang from the College of Liberal Arts, Assistant Professor. All right. We have Dr. Alex Barzilov, College of Engineering, Mechanical Engineering. Thank you. We have Dr. Jenna Venglarsward from the College of Education, Associate Professor in Early Childhood, Multilingual, and Special Education. Thank you so much for being here. We have Dr. Janet Dufek from Professor of Kinesiology and Nutrition Sciences. Hello, Janet. Thank you for being here. And we have Dr. Nicole DeVille from the School of Public Health, Assistant Professor. Welcome, thank you. And I just want to double check. Okay. Awesome. Thank you again for serving on our panel of judges today. So we are ready to officially begin the competition in our round today. Our first presenter is going to be Wynn Tashman. Wynn, you may begin when we advance to your slide. Win, you may begin whenever you're ready.
What's the one thing we all expect from school? It's that every student should have a safe place to learn, maybe even to learn something useful. But for far too many students in Nevada, school isn't always that safe or that simple. Nevada is actually a national model for inclusive education laws and school district policies. On paper, we're an A-plus state. We did our homework. So, what is the paradoxical problem that we are facing today? Well, the policies that are meant to protect LGBTQIA plus students on paper, they're not translating into practice. These policies, my research hypothesizes, aren't just failing, but are actually being impacted by a variable I study called institutional cisnormativity and heteronormativity. These terms are what researchers use to refer to the assumptions that everyone is straight and cisgender until proven otherwise. As an institutional variable, that refers to the way that a system, such as a school system, is designed around those normative assumptions. When these norms go unexamined, they shape everything from how our policies are written to which names appear in textbooks to whether a student feels safe or seen in their own classroom. And they're exceedingly difficult to identify and measure in empirical studies because they're invisible. So my dissertation paper promises explores what happens after inclusion becomes law. Where do those good intentions get lost? And Nevada is my case study, and let me tell you, it's a fascinating one. Check out these beautiful pieces of paper on the screen. We have in 2018, Clark County School District adopted Policy 5138, which safeguards gender affirming practices. And in 2021, Nevada passed statewide law, Assembly Bill 261, requiring LGBTQIA plus inclusive history to be taught in public schools. In 2025, the Movement Advancement Project gave Nevada an almost perfect score, 9.75 out of 10 for these protections. So we're passing our homework. But as Read 2023 points out, even when these laws exist, they rarely define how inclusion should look. This leaves implementation gaps, as we can see from the data in point two. I did a queer quant reading of GLSEN's Nevada State snapshot from 2019 and 2021 and found that our rates of inclusive curriculum, as well as access to a supportive school policy, actually dropped after the time period in which these laws and policies were passed, which means that we can't just write inclusion into the record. We need people to bring it to life. So my research asks two core questions. First, in what ways are cis and heteronormativity still being reproduced and sustained through structures, policies, and everyday practices? And two, how are they discursively constructed? So I created a code book, and I'm using ecological systems framework in order to track this across discourse, because this shouldn't be extra credit. It's part of the core curriculum for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Win, and we'll now give the judges a minute to enter their scores in the rubric. All right, so our next slammer today is Cynthia Sapko in the Doctor of Philosophy Neuroscience program. Cynthia, you may begin when we advance to your side and you are ready.
When you woke up today, did you know the breakfast you chose, how well you slept last night, and even how stressed out you felt during your commute could all influence your brain health years from now? These everyday experiences leave subtle footprints on the brain, footprints that we can now see and map with MRI scans. Using these non-invasive images allow for early detection of subtle brain changes. Changes associated with stress, cognitive decline, disease, and they can inform personalized interventions before clinical symptoms even emerge. Using a comprehensive imaging approach, we can actually combine multiple MRI sequences together to capture complementary aspects of brain health. For example, we can use high-resolution structural MRIs to characterize the shape and thickness of gray matter. That's where the neuron cell bodies actually are. We can use diffusion-weighted imaging in order to map connectivity and the integrity of white matter. That's where the neural signals flow. And we can use arterial spin labeling to quantify blood flow in and between brain regions. These techniques together allow us to glimpse a brain's individual circulation, connectivity, and structure. We can then combine that with lifestyle and behavioral data to generate a personalized brain health profile. For example, if the brain images were to show reduced circulation within the brain and the person were to have high cholesterol, we could recommend exercise in order to boost circulation throughout the whole body. If the other set of brain images were to show stress-related changes in the brain and maybe they had high blood pressure, we could recommend meditation in order to restore balance within the body. Now, I understand these examples are a little bit general, but personalized medicine is just that, personal. And so during my training, I want to apply and expand on these MRI techniques to better understand how risk and resilience can impact the brain over time. This work explores how daily experiences can actually help us to predict neural health trajectories, and it aims to help us identify early modifiable markers of brain health and translate those into personalized prevention strategies. Now, these early footprints in the brain can then change our MRIs from just these diagnostic snapshots into these dynamic feedback systems. They can help us to truly understand individual pathways of risk and resilience and how that shows up in each person individually. And whenever we combined all of this, the imaging, the lifestyle and behavioral data, we're linking that with biology, you can truly see tomorrow's brain today. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia, and we will now give the judges another moment to score. Right, our next presenter today is Randy Hillview from the Master of Architecture program. You may begin when you see your slide.
Okay, thank you. I've been a Clark County School District student my entire life, from elementary to high school. And if I had to describe my experience in one word, it would be disconnected. In elementary school, there was a courtyard, but we rarely used it. In middle school, there's no windows, just walls. In high school, I had to walk between portables under the hot desert sun. I never thought about my relationship with nature because there wasn't one. And that's where my question began. What if the very design of our schools is holding students back? CCSD is the fifth largest school district in the United States, yet year after year, we face the same challenges. Overcrowding, budget cuts, staff shortages, chronic absenteeism, and low test scores. Beyond these systemic issues lies something deeper, something we see and feel every day. Our schools don't reflect the place that we live in. Most campuses ignore the Mojave Desert, its beauty, its ecology, and its climate. Instead of responding to the environment, we're working against it. Sorry. So my thesis, Schools of the Desert, asks, what would happen if we design schools not just in the desert, but of the desert. Schools in the desert are built without consideration of its context, then merely placed within it. Schools of the desert, they respond to a region's climate, ecology, and cultural identity. Schools that belong here. Um, instead of, oh, sorry. At the heart of this approach is biophilic design. So schools that um, sorry. Um, is, is there a timer or? Oh. Um, sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
All right, thank you, Randy. Thank you so much. All right, we'll now give the judges a moment to score. Next, we have Marzieh Tahiri, a Doctor of Philosophy student in Mechanical Engineering. You may begin when you see your slide.
Hey, in our research, we are working to convert iron oxide to iron. Currently in industry, the common way to produce iron from iron oxide is a blast furnace. But the problem with this furnace is that it releases a huge amount of CO2 emissions into the atmosphere, and it also is very costly to operate and maintain. As you can see in the photo on the left column, iron and coal and carbon in the form of coke are go into blast furnace, and according to the reaction that you see, iron oxide is converted into iron, but a lot of CO2 is released into the atmosphere, and this blast furnace operates at a temperature of around 2000 degrees Celsius, which is a very high temperature. So over the past year, scientists have been trying to find an alternative to this costly and highly polluting process. One promising alternative is an electrowinning cell. In an electrowinning cell, we use electric current to extract iron from iron oxide. As you can see in the photo, right in the middle of the second column, there are some main components in an electrowinning cell. We have two electrodes, anode and cathode, an electrolyte which provides iron oxide, and we also have an external source of power. this process have so many benefits, including it has lower costs compared to blast furnace. It doesn't cause any pollution, and it's also much cheaper to operate. In an electrowinning cell, we normally uh, assess the performance of the cell using two parameters: current density, which is obtained by dividing the current we get from the cell by the area of our electrode, and current efficiency. In current efficiency, we just divide the deposited mass on the electrode by the theoretical deposited mass, which can be obtained from this equation, ITM over NF. In our research, in the literature, they have been trying to increase the efficiency of the cell by rotating the cathode, which on which iron is deposited. But in our research, we're trying to improve the efficiency of an electrowinning cell by including an impeller. And from this figure, we can see that current density goes up.
Thank you. We'll now give the judges a moment to score. Our next slammer today is Jalal Uddin from the Doctor of Philosophy in Public Health program. Jalal, you may begin when you see your slide.
Imagine a child growing up surrounded by instability, stress, and trauma. Now fast forward 50 years. What if those early struggles quietly shaped how their brain ages? Raise your hand if you ever heard the phrase subjective cognitive decline. Okay, not many, right? You are not alone. Subjective cognitive decline, or SCD, is when people notice their memory slipping. More forgetfulness, more confusion, more frustration. For some, it's one of the earliest warning signs of dementia. My research asks, can childhood adversity and social hardships, the kinds public researchers call social determinants of health, increase memory decline among Nevada age 45 and older? According to Alzheimer's Association's 2023 report, about 1 in 5 adults over 45 in Nevada already feel their memory or thinking skills slipping. At the same time, many face unstable housing, food insecurity, and financial stress. And far too many carry the invisible weight of childhood adversity, abuse, neglect, or household dysfunction. But what we don't yet understand is how the weight of the past and burden of the present come together to shape the brain health. Nevada's memory crisis may begin decades earlier than we think. I turn to the 2023 Nevada Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, a statewide health survey run by the CTZ. I analyzed responses from more than 1,400 adults. I looked at childhood adversity, social determinants of health, and self-reported memory concern. And what I found struck me cold. Adults with 4 or more childhood adversity were nearly 3 times more likely to report memory concern. But here is the twist. Those who faced both early adversity and social hardships had nearly double the odds of memory difficulty compared to those who never experienced either. In other words, early adversity and social inequity don't just add up, they multiply. Think about it. Memory loss doesn't start in old age. It can take root in childhood. Picture a child hearing shouting instead of bedtime stories. Decades later, those early scars may echo in forgotten memory, missed appointment, or lost moment that matter most. This isn't just a medical issue, it's an issue of fairness. Those burdened in childhood are often burdened again in memory. And because subjective cognitive decline can come before dementia, there is a window, a chance to act early. If we reduce childhood trauma and its social hardship, we may delay or even prevent memory decline. Childhood adversity can weaken the brain, especially when social struggle add to it. But there is hope. If childhood adversity can shape memory loss, then support and fairness can shape recovery. Nevada can lead not by treating dementia later, but by preventing it now. Together, we can change how that story ends. Thank you.
Thank you, Jalal, and we will now give the judges a minute to score. Our next presenter today is Prince Wiafe from the Applied Economics and Data Intelligence Master of Science program. Prince, you may begin when you see your slide.
Okay, hi everyone. Good afternoon. Today I want to walk you through my train of thought and what my curiosity led me to understand what it means to say women are empowered. As at the time of writing this paper, I didn't understand why in South Africa, 6 out of 10 women are abused or face racial discrimination. This is because when we try to understand what it means to say women are empowered, then we try to make sure that the policies that surrounding women empowerment were basically the ones that lead to a single dimension. All the social development indicators that seeks to project women empowerment were all based on a single dimension. But my study or these people have shown me that women empowerment is not just a multi-dimension. For instance, many people suggest that let's give women money. Let's send women to school. Let's give them education. And by that, all other factors will form into play or will come into being. But however, we could see that that is not the case. We live in a society and a community where there is that social interaction between all other variables and all other factors. And so when women get access to agency, when women get access to resources, leadership, income, when their time or work that they do in terms of household chores and all other things are factored into policy, then we could see that women are actually empowered. But we have to go beyond just the single indicator of promoting women empowerment. And so if you could see in the graph below, you could see that all other indicators, for instance, income, although had been the sole driver of women empowerment in most policies, you could see that it contributes less to women empowerment in this case. And the major contributor of women empowerment is agency. And in this case, agency is where the women have the freedom to decide on the kind of things that you do. Some women may have money, but do not necessarily have the control over their income. And so, and measuring women empowerment just solely on income may not be the issue. And so this study taught me that women empowerment is multidimensional. And any policy that seeks to address women empowerment should consider that multidimensional nature of women empowerment. And it is driven by regional and societal discrimination. And so the graph up above, or the map of South Africa, suggests that rural communities, women tends to be more disempowered as compared to women within the urban community. Why? Because The urban community women mostly have resources available. And so in this case, I have seen that women empowerment is multidimensional. The fact that a woman may have money may not necessarily that woman may have the agency to overtake that decision that you want to take. And so in our quest to formulate policy, let's look at multidimensional empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you, Prince, and we'll now give our judges a minute to score. Okay, our next presenter today is Pratik Paranjapa, who is from the Doctor of Philosophy program in Neuroscience. Pratik, you may begin when you see your slide.
Good afternoon, everyone. Imagine that you woke up one day and while buttoning your shirts, you feel that your hands are uncoordinated and the movements are slower. We often see Alzheimer's disease as just a memory loss problem, but that's not the case. Memory is the last reason, like one of the last reason to get affected in Alzheimer's disease. Uh, it starts in sensory and motor regions, which control the movement and how we feel. Over 55 million people in world are suffering with Alzheimer's disease. So these sensory and motor changes, they also happen as we grow old. So how we can distinguish between Alzheimer's disease and the growing older? So that's the question my research aims to answer. And the way I'm going to distinguish or differentiate between these is by using two types of mice, one which has Alzheimer's and one which is healthy. So I have three age groups of mice: old, young, and older adults. So at three different time points, I will study their brain regions of sensory and motor cortex, and then I will, with the help of two photon calcium imaging, which is a microscope which can visualize the neuronal transmission, and I can see like how neurons are communicating with each other during the state of movement and the state of rest. So once we differentiate between this like different types of the way the neurons are communicating with each other, we can find out the particular differences between healthy aging and the Alzheimer's disease. But so my hypothesis is the Alzheimer's mice will be having disrupted movement and slower movements, as well as some uh, so I will also be using immunohistochemistry, which is a technique which can visualize the protein level changes in the brain, and it can help us identify distinguishing between structural and functional changes in the brain. With this research, I will not just be studying Alzheimer's. I'm trying to find it at early stage so that we can find a cure to it or treat it better. Because once the memory loss is starting to appear, that is a step where we cannot go back and it cannot be cured. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratik. And judges, now you will have another minute to score. our next presenter is Zoe Wall from the Doctor of Philosophy in Biological Sciences program. And Zoe, you may begin when you see your slide.
When was the last time you saw an old growth forest, with each tree dating back multiple hundred years? If you've passed through any of the southwestern states, Nevada, or California, it's probably more recent than you think. Pinyon juniper woodlands are the largest old growth forest in North America, covering more than 46 million acres. But with the increasing severity of drought due to climate change, the ecoregion is under threat of widespread mortality, which has already begun. The two co-dominant species, pinyon and juniper, have very different physiology, and as a result, respond differently to drought. I want you to first notice the structure of the two trees. In the pinyon trees, it's very easy to identify one main stem from which we see branching in an ultimately very interconnected architecture. Then take a look at the juniper, which has very disparate, disconnected architecture. This is the spectrum of modularity. When drought occurs, there's not enough moisture in the soil to maintain an unbroken water column from the roots to the leaves, which leads to the introduction of air bubbles into the piping system, damaging the tissue and leaving it non-functional. This becomes a problem very quickly when branches are highly interconnected like the pinyon, and air bubbles can spread to the surrounding architecture, eventually killing the tree. Juniper, however, are among the most drought-resistant taxa, in part due to their modularity, and the introduction of air bubbles is segregated to individual branches or modules, which protect the tree against whole tree mortality in this process of elimination. This leaves some branches thirsty and other branches hydrated. We hypothesized that an increasing variability of thirstiness among branches of the same tree would indicate an adaptation to drought that's previously been unobserved in trees. We're interested in quantifying the relationship between modularity and drought in junipers. We leveraged a long-term drought study in the Saviata National Wildlife Refuge in New Mexico, where we measured water stress in 45 different trees that have been experiencing varying levels of drought durations, from 0 up to 5 years to 15 years. We quantified the range of thirstiness values across 9 branches of each tree. Our preliminary data tell us that as drought duration increases, so does the level of variability in hydraulic functioning per branch. This is also visible in the bottom right figure, where you see the dye stain method, where we can identify functional conductive tissue versus unfunctional tissue. And our research will allow us more insight into how this very important ecosystem is responding to climate change, thus preserving this ecologically significant old growth forest and the iconic woodlands of the Southwest. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe, and we will now give our judges a minute to score. Next, we have Gavin Silva from the Master of Architecture program. Gavin, you may begin when you see your slide.
The city of Farmington, New Mexico lies on the Colorado Plateau, and it is challenged by cold winters and an arid climate and fragile water systems. The city is currently facing shortages, it faces challenges from resource extraction and the project explores how architecture can become more resilient and can use more sustainable technologies and natural ventilation, natural cooling, adaptive architecture, and passive heating and cooling and shading systems. By exploring these methods, we can figure out the core part of the issue within the city by exploring locally sourced materials and using circular construction practices in order to build upon the new communities and also build upon old communities within the city. By using precedents and examples such as Arcosanti, Arizona, and the model of earthships located in Taos, New Mexico, we can look at these communities and we can take examples from them. Earthships takes a lot of its examples from using locally sourced materials and building self-sustaining like pods or ships within the ground, within the systems, and also using basements in lower areas to help with natural ventilation and cooling, and also uses solar panels to provide natural energy for the earthships as well. So the earthships can also, along with Arcosanti, Arizona, which also use a lot of sustainable practices, we can use these as examples for other cities that are heavily reliant on oil, gas, and coal to sort of bring renewable practices and bring regenerative and resilient communities to these regions that could really use and benefit from them, especially regions and communities within the desert. Indigenous design practices are also at the forefront of these materials that we can use as locally sourced materials and locally sourced, locally inspired communities. By using indigenous design principles such as taking materials from the region that have been there for centuries, like stucco. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gavin. And now we'll give our judges a minute to score. Okay, next we have Adaremi Baramosi, who's a Doctor of Philosophy student in Civil and Environmental Engineering. Adaremi, you may begin when you see your slide.
Thank you. So, concrete built our modern worlds. From the bridges that we cross every day, to the homes in which we live in, the cities that we admire all around the world, and the highway in which our cars move every day. They are both as a result of using this concrete. Have you ever asked yourself this question of what is the most widely used materials in the world? You can take a guess. Water is the most widely used material in the world, followed by concrete. Yes, you heard me correctly. But this is different because water is naturally occurring, but concrete is a man-made material. So which makes it the most widely used man-made material in the world. And as such, making of this concrete leads to emission of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. As you can see from my presentation slide, it contributes more than 11% of CO2 emission to the atmosphere, which is much more that the aviation industry combined. This is a big problem for our health, for the ecosystem, because they're able to cause some health challenges like heart diseases and also disrupt our ecosystem, leading to drought and flooding. So what are we going to do? Concrete is too much of a necessity to ignore. Imagine if we don't have concrete, how are we going to build all of these cities you see in New York, in Las Vegas Strip that you see and admire all the day? So we need to find a way. And that begs the question, how do we keep building our world without compromising the health of our planet and our own safety? And that is exactly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to rebrand concrete, to reimagine concrete in such a way that it can serve its purpose, and at the same time, this concrete can be sustainable enough for our environment, not to cause harm to our health and to our ecosystem. And that is why I'll be using supplementary cementitious materials. These are materials that can act like cement, but they are not cement. They are naturally occurring materials. And also, they are waste products of steel industry, production, power plant industry sometimes. So we'll be using them in combination with activators. These are some chemicals that can give us some reaction that cement will give us. When we mix them together, we can form UHPC. This is a new form of concrete that is very strong, far more durable, and you can guess, sustainable as well. So with this, we can have a concrete that is not using cement and very, very strong and durable. Now, because of the intricacy and complexity of this system, I'll be doing almost 100 different mixes because I want to pinpoint which of these mixes is good for your homes, to build your homes, to build these bridges, and to build these highways. And also it can inform the policymakers and everyone out there who cares on how to use this concrete instead of using the concrete with cement. So you can imagine working every day around these infrastructures that is not made with cement, and you don't have to be scared that it's compromising your health or ecosystem. With this research, that must feel good, right? And with this research, it brings us very close to the vision of turning waste to strength and where strength drives sustainability. And at the same time, I'm not trying to just build on material, but I'm trying to think about the future of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Adaremi, and now we'll give our judges a minute to score. Right, our final presenter today is Alan Garcia, who is a Master of Architecture student. So Alan, you may begin when you see your slide.
Good afternoon. After the final whistle focuses on the worldwide problem of aging and abandoned stadiums. While abandoned buildings are not a new problem, stadiums represent a unique architectural typology, being that they often cost billions of dollars to build and hold a unique place in the community's heart and history. Research on adaptive reuse has shown that we have the technology and knowledge to adapt buildings, yet we rarely see it done. In the case of stadiums, cost is always cited as the main limiting factor. But for such a complex building type and complex problem, that answer is far too simple. Although economics do play a major role in the final decision, financial concerns often fail to properly weigh other key values. This results in abandoned stadiums that cause cities economic and environmental burdens for a very long time. My thesis will facilitate the decision-making process to prevent stadiums from sitting vacant for decades and instead transform them into community assets. To do this, I'm applying the stakeholder management theory instead of the commonly used shareholder theory. Through my research, I've identified 10 different design criteria that collectively weigh stakeholder priorities and make the final decision much more actionable. To test this framework, I'm using a stadium in our own backyard, Sam Boyd, which has been abandoned for the last 5 years. This is going to be my case study, my test site, to do a series of design iterations evaluated through each design criteria to demonstrate why a community-centered approach is essential. Now, when I say community, too often it's used as a catch-all feel-good term, but that's not the case here. As part of my research, I'm going to quantify and properly weigh community input, proving that attention to community directly correlates with economic value. This thesis will not only present my opinions, my research, and my design iterations, it's going to include critiques and contributions from global leaders and local professionals in the industry to increase its validity. By applying this framework with a focus on community, we can prevent stadiums from sitting abandoned. Ultimately, this thesis will not just answer what should be done with Sam Boyd Stadium, but it will provide a framework for professionals around the world for stadium reuse and potentially serve as a foundation for adaptive reuse of other building types. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. So now we will give the judges a minute to enter scores for Alan and submit your rubrics before we wrap up. Well, thank you all so much for joining our preliminary rounds today, and thank you to the Grad College team who have made this 3MT event possible. So now just stay tuned. We will announce the winners live in just a few moments. Judges out there, if you have not submitted your rubric, please be sure to press submit at the bottom of your scoring rubric form. And while the top 3 winners of this round will progress to the semifinals, you will all be winners of a Rebel Grad Slam t-shirt, which you can pick up during the Rebel Grad Slam finals round and reception this Friday. For the preliminary rounds, our first place winner will receive $300 in scholarship. Our second place winner will receive $200, and our third place winner will receive $100. All right, so it looks like we are just waiting on one more judge submission, everybody, and then we will announce our winners once we have all scores available. Thank you. Okay, everyone, thanks for your patience. We had a lot of presenters this round, but I'm very excited to share the winners of this preliminary session. So I'm going to go backwards to forwards. In third place, we have Adaremi Badamosi. Congratulations, Adaremi. In second place, we have Cynthia Sopko. Congratulations, Cynthia. And in first place for this session, we have Zoe Wall. So congratulations, Zoe. Thank you all again for your participation, and please do join us for the semifinals round on Thursday, November 6th. We'll have 3 different semifinals rounds. Our winners here, you'll get information about that in a bit here this week. We have a round at 9 a.m., 11 a.m., at 1:30 p.m. at the Greenspun Auditorium. And we invite you all to join us to our finals round as well, which is going to be this Friday at 4 p.m. at the Greenspun Auditorium and Lobby. You have an RSVP in the chat right now if you would like to attend that event. That is also where we will provide everybody's Rebel Grad Slam t-shirts. So those are for both our presenters and our judges. We welcome you to pick them up on Friday. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.